Welcome back to TearRing Saga's extremely long epilogue. Now our next destination is Marl Palace. So the music that's playing here, I haven't actually mentioned it before, but it's called Girl of Leader, which means that it's actually Tia's theme, not Richard's, even though it's mainly associated with him and other royals like him. The future of both countries, I guess. Hopefully Richard doesn't get too crazily ambitious. It's hard to tell how much of that is an act and how much isn't. Okay, yeah, I guess you're one of the few people left to tend to the Earth Shrine, but that place is really well and truly wasteland right now, so it's going to be a big effort to fix that place up. And this event always happens if Alicia's alive. There are no variant endings with her. I never actually knew anywhere called Corfu City in this game. Yeah, it must have been about his parents. Now, I hope this isn't Xeno's solo ending, because I really should be getting his ending with Uni here. Yeah, that must have been when he met Holmes. Okay, yes, I am getting his ending with Uni. This one is interesting in several regards. And it's why a lot of people prefer this to the Atrom and Lyria events. So that massive backstory on Uni, you never find out if you don't pair her with Xeno, and it's definitely enough to make me support that ship over Xeno and Katri like I used to, but one thing that I do find a little bit awkward about that is that a dark-skinned character turns out to have been very pale white-skinned all along, and was only making their skin look dark so that people would think they were ugly. I don't think the implications of that would really fly if this game ever got officially localized, so yeah. It's a pretty awkward part of that event, but if I forget that, it's a pretty good scene. So this scene here between Vega and Krishna, which Krishna though? Which one is it? This seems to be automatic as long as they're both alive, which is really interesting because I'll talk about it later. Krishna has another event later that I think the only way you can get it is if Vega dies. Yeah, Historia's whole deal is also interesting because, you know, Tia and Richard were the ones who saved everything from their warmongering, and that's also totally off-screen. Wait a minute. Did I think we actually just got two endings for Krishna! I think we just got her solo ending and her Vega ending! Although I really, really hope that doesn't mean that, that I don't get the Krishna ending later on. But that is interesting. I really hope that having two Krishnas doesn't ruin, what's about to happen here. I do have a backup plan. If this doesn't happen, then I do have footage of it from an earlier playthrough. But this part right here. Yeah, Law knew way too much for just an average priest. And this confession that's about to happen, this is in my opinion the biggest change in the fan translation to the plot. And this is one that I personally don't really approve of. So, in the original Japanese version, Law is not dead. What happened is that the first time you meet Law, it is actually the real Law when he reunites with Katri. But it's only the Law that joins you on the second route split and gives Holmes the giant exposition dump, as well as the Law here that is not really Law and is a certain someone else in disguise. I think the fan translation changed it because they thought it was kind of dumb to have, like, him impersonating Law just for one part of the story and then never again. It does make sense why he doesn't stay with Katri in this version of events, but still, the reason why I don't like it is that it makes the reunion between Katri and him feel a lot more bittersweet, and it also retroactively removes a lot of the sympathy that Ma Hen has, because one of Ma Hen's, like, moments of hey, he's not such a bad guy after all, is that he spared Father Law, that he didn't actually kill him. And that's ruined by this change. So yeah, overall I don't really like this change. But that happening means that I probably successfully got the special event. Yeah, hopefully I don't go back to, banditry again. Yep, it's implied that Holmes remembered him all along, he was just messing with him. So, once we head into the Western AC, we should be seeing something. So this scene here plays if every character was recruited and was kept alive. You can still lose up to 3 people at the end and revive them with the Ducaron, but as long as everyone is alive at the end of the game, this doesn't count like the mutually exclusive recruits from Count Marlon, or anything like that. But this is your reward for doing a quote-unquote perfect playthrough. Thankfully, having 2 Krishners didn't ruin this for me like I was worried it would. So get ready everyone! Yep, as Holmes is saying, it's a lot to absorb. It's time for one more gigantic exposition dump. So, Miradonna was a princess of a tribe that were totally not Manichees. Miradonna, in a lot of ways, is heavily inspired by Tiki. Yeah, it is actually kind of awkward that the king was basically asking, like, all of them. This wasn't just, like, sealing their powers within Dragonstones, he was kind of asking his entire race to commit mass suicide. So, it's a little bit weird. Yeah, just like Tiki. Yeah, the interesting twist on the cult is it turns out that Gerzel was actually kind of Miradonna the whole time. They were both just different interpretations of the same being. So really, they actually worship the same god that the rest of the continent does. Yes, drinking blood, just like the backstory of Fire Emblem 4. But this whole thing is just very similar to what later happened with Corellon and Miradonna. Except, this time it didn't end so well. And, as a result, the god Gurzel became real, but, yeah, the modern-day Gurzel is really just Calbazan. The earliest one was Miradonna all along. So the bracelets are sort of this universe's substitute for Dragonstones. I mean, that was already what was implied before. And that's all the same as the history we know. And something about that backstory that I do find kind of interesting, in another sort of Kaga did it first moment, Calbazan is incredibly similar to Nemesis, in my opinion. Their entire backstory, it's just kind of crazy. And Miradonna actually probably has more in common with Sothis than with Tiki, now that I think about it as well. Again, total coincidence. I don't claim there's anything suspicious going on there, but it's kind of funny. Port Sora is where it all began, as Rune is saying. Yeah, most of these games take place over the course of only a single year. Yes, especially Count Marlon. He was generous enough to give us Naron. So, we get an event here where Alfred is reuniting with Sylphus, and apparently if Mel is dead, you don't get to see this. Well, maybe one day, Marouge can go to, the Water Shrine and help Muriel. Because Narcissus trolled the two of them into liking each other. So obviously this event will only play if you recruited this guy. There are also events with Luca as well. Yeah, he was only in my army so I could recruit Latina, so yeah, I never really used him that much. Meanwhile, this is Naron's only ending, sadly. Yeah, like, pretty much his one weakness is that he doesn't really have much story relevance. Except for one thing. His father was a general of Canaan. And we know a certain general of Canaan who had the same class Naron promotes to. Who had incredibly high stats. And who I killed with Naron. Oops. Oh no, you were a lot of help. I kind of feel bad that I didn't really use her that much towards the end of the game. I just had too many overpowered characters at that point. But Raquel is really great overall. Still one of my favourite characters to use in this game. And also she triggers that event with Luca that is just kind of hilarious. I'm so sorry, Luca. There's extra dialogue here if Luca was recruited, and apparently if Luca's dead, this event changes somewhat as well. Reversing the recruitment conversation, I see. I think I have bonus footage of the Luca version of that event somewhere. And now we go straight to Fort Welts. And Fort Welts has probably one of the biggest changes here based on certain things that you do, and it's a change that I've never actually seen before. And so Tom just gets a typical goodbye. He has no variant endings as far as I know. That almost reminds me of Castor to an extent. Yeah, sending money back to the family. Oh yeah, certainly the best financial decision because you can make a lot of money in arenas. And now this event only requires Raphael to be alive. Marlon was pretty much just, literally holding the fort until he was back. Well, I mean, he'll certainly be a way better Chancellor than Coda was. Yeah, this role would have originally been filled by San, not Esther. And that sees what happens if Raffin ends up paired with Sharon, which is the blatantly correct choice, because if you don't get that, then Raffin and Esther will end up hooking up there. Before we move on to Norton's epilogue, in my test playthrough, I got an additional event with Arcus and Esther here. This was not mentioned in the Pegasus Knight guide, so I'm not sure exactly what triggers this, but in this playthrough I went to chapter 26A, and I had Arcus and Kreis in Runan's party for the first route split, which gives an extra conversation between Arcus and Esther after chapter 10. Maybe that's what causes this. If that's true, this would be mutually exclusive with the Latina event though. So if anyone is more aware of exactly what triggers this, please let me know. And there's extra scenes here with Norton if you recruited Lionel, and I definitely have footage of that from an earlier playthrough, which I'll be showing. Yes, everyone is living happily ever after. Of course, Holmes is still a little bit conflicted. So the events with here change a little bit if Sasha died, and apparently they change if you didn't recruit Zeke in Chapter 5. I actually wonder what happens if you don't recruit Zeke. I'm sure you would still fight him as a boss because he's really important. I mean, I'm gonna need to try that someday, like maybe what happens if you don't recruit Zeke? Because surely you won't, like, there's no way that Zeke wouldn't be a boss later in the game if you didn't recruit him. So even though Zeke wasn't mentioned there, that's the reason why she feels so bad. And now, this scene here, this scene is the one I was referring to before. This is what changes if you put Sasha on Holmes' route for the first route split. All of those events eventually lead up to this. You will not get this scene if you didn't put Sasha on Holmes' split in the first one. So in this version of events, Sasha finally realizes that she has an older half-brother. It's nice to see a happy couple that is, like, already married at the start of the story. It's a shame that I didn't get to bring her to the final battle, but Sasha was still great throughout the whole game. It was us helping out Welts and getting them as allies that really helped us start making a stand against the Empire. And here is the even bigger change if you find out about this. Yeah, never seen that scene before, but it's just such a great way to cap everything off. Finally, Holmes gets to see his mother again. And now the final scenes at Port Sora. Just Holmes and Runen. I mean, you know, he avoided his mother, why can't I do the same for the other parent? Really? That's the thing with tsundere is they will do anything to avoid confronting their feelings, even claiming that their love interest is possessed by a dark god. Did you think about that? Yeah, when did you get here? Yeah, that's why she, was not acting herself. It was all a trap by Shigen to make Holmes admit his feelings. She is gonna go by her original name now. And I can finally explain. So remember all the way back when I said that the reason why she was named Enter was something that just makes me go, oh, Kaga. I can finally explain why. So, her real name means seagull in German. Enter means duck in German. In Japanese, duck is kamo, and seagull is kamome. Me in Japanese means eye. So Kaga thought, aha, if you add an I to duck, it becomes seagull. Therefore, it's symbolic of Enter's awakening. I'm not kidding, this is actually the reason why Kaga went with the names that he did. Yes, cross-lingual obscure joke that requires you to know German and Japanese. Ugh. The inner workings of Kaga's mind are an enigma sometimes. I've been waiting so long to finally explain that. And once again, Holmes. I mean, I still think Catfree fits her, though. Especially since she prefers it. So, yeah, did I mention this? I didn't mention this before, but I think it's been pretty heavily implied. The Bishop Law, the one who impersonated him, that was Sage Morse. He was the one who gave all of those lore dumps. Okay, so I'm really, really hoping that I don't get a certain scene here. Yes, I got Sierra, good, okay. I was worried that I would get Krishna here. So there are 3 variations of this. If you did the support between Shigen and Julia, Julia shows up here. If not, then Sierra shows up here. There is apparently a variant where you get Krishna here, but I'm pretty sure that you can't get that unless Vega dies. I'm really not sure how you get the Krishna version, but I definitely much prefer Shigen ending up with Sierra, so yeah, I'm glad this happened. And with that, we really end TearRing Saga. Thank you for sticking through that very, very long ending. We'll get a recap of all the turns we took to beat the chapters. So, wow, TearRing Saga, yeah, this is a pretty long game for a turn-based strategy inspired by and totally not being Fire Emblem. And it definitely has its flaws. One in particular that I have noticed more when I'm recording is the info dumps and the masses of exposition and all of that world building that just doesn't really feel like there's much of a point to it. Basically, people have said that Kaga needed an editor, and I feel like that's definitely the case here. A lot of this could have used another pass to cut down redundant dialogue. There's a lot of exposition and info dumps, and recording it and not having the luxury of mashing through text that's redundant, like I do in most of my casual playthroughs, it definitely made that stand out. So, I understand why that could be an issue. And yeah, there are a lot of very broken characters, but at the same time, I think almost everyone who's playable is fun to use in some regard. There are very few characters who are outright awful, like Krishna and maybe Luca, but even then, and also Lena, but even then all of them have their things, like Krishna has stealing and the glitch, Luca has the events, and, Lena, I've even heard of people making Lena work. I can understand why some people would consider this game average at best. It does lack polish in a lot of regards, and it is very, very easy, but it is overall a game that I enjoy, and it's a game that I wanted to play on the channel for a long time. In fact, ever since I beat the game for the first time in 2012, I've wanted to play this on the channel, and now I'm finally doing it in 2021. Been almost 10 years, I can hardly believe that. But now it's done. Mostly. I still want to show off the multiplayer mode, and maybe a bit of bonus footage. I want to show, I still have a save file from back at the Cranian fight, so I'd like to show Lionheart's special defeat dialogue for beating Ahab. And there is some unused content I could go over with this game, though it will take me quite a while to research all that, because there's a lot of it. There's a whole prototype version of the game. I'm not really sure, exactly how much that's been gone into at all. But it's something that I will have to look into, because this game does have a lot of interesting history. So overall, this game is one that I wanted to play because it's a Fire Emblem game in all but name. And yeah, there's an ellipsis after Julius's name in the chapter title in Japanese. I'm kind of annoyed that the ellipsis is not in the translated title. And I hope you've enjoyed watching me play it. I hadn't seen a lot of full Let's Plays of this game, both with the better fan translation, and also, yeah, holy crap, that map took me a long time because I tried to get a special conversation. There weren't a lot of full playthroughs with the new fan translation, and that really went into all of the characters in detail. I like how the seconds still count up, even in the credits. So I sort of wanted to fill a void there, because there are a lot of very obscure events and guide dangits. Oh, and here we have, there's even more, time for me to talk about final thoughts, because I forgot that we actually had our final character results here. Units kill. 32, most of those in skirmishes. Some of these numbers might look a little bit awkward because the fan translation sort of messes up the formatting. If a number's over 10, it might overlap with the stat name. Yeah, because 11 strength is kind of overlapping with strength, and mastery is overlapping too, but anyway, we'll be going over all the characters here, so as I said, I have more time to give final thoughts. And I tried to consolidate as much information across various walkthroughs as I could, because there were a lot of walkthroughs of this game, and none of them are complete, and a lot of them have wrong information about a few things. So I cross-referenced several of them, I tried to get as much information into this as I could, but even then, there was still a lot of things about this game that I didn't even know. So I would really like to thank two people who've been in the comments for most of this series, Rengor and Aggro Incarnate. Both of them I know are actually fairly active in the TearRing Saga community, and they pointed out a lot of things about this game that I didn't know, like the fact that, that enemies don't get the bonuses of their tiles if they're the one initiating combat, which can be used to beat bosses on gates and thrones a lot more easily. So yeah, there's still more information being unearthed about this game, and I hope I got to talk about as much as I could, and I hope you've really enjoyed me going into this, and I've learned new stuff about this game too, so that's been great. I will also say though, I admit that I did suffer a bit of burnout regarding this game later on. It's definitely very, very long, and it has some very long cutscenes. I've had a lot of videos that were like 40 minutes of just cutscenes. It did take quite a while, so, just realised that I forgot to look at and comment on Naron's total kills. Vague has 87, I dread to think how high Naron's kill count was. And I also hope that the later videos... There have been some delays in the later videos as well, I'll say. Like, you won't know this if you're coming to this series later, and I don't like to talk about this kind of stuff, because I always like to let these videos work if you're coming to watch them later down the line after they've been uploaded. Because I just don't want to date them, but I will say that during the later parts, I had to change to a new version of my editor, and that resulted in me spending an entire week of extreme stress and frustration wrangling it and trying to get everything to work, because of course the update broke basically everything I was using. On top of all that, wow, Tom got 15 kills, that's pretty impressive. On top of all that, the time that I uploaded the end of this game, I'll just say that certain circumstances have happened in the state that I live in, Sydney, Australia, during the middle of 2021, and it's caused, yeah, a little bit of depression in me, and I hope that none of that really bled into the videos at all. I hope I didn't really sound like I was rushing things to get this out of the way, because I actually do have quite a few series in the works after this, and I will fully admit I was anxious to get started on those. So I hope I didn't rush these last videos. I still wanted them to be as good and complete as they could be, and I actually really liked my take of the final chapter, and I love the fact that I managed to get Kate's defeat dialogue with Zeke. I never thought I'd do that. So, wow, we still actually have quite a lot of characters to go through. I just realized that's the problem with recruiting everyone. I wonder if Krishna's going to show up twice. 1 kill. Interesting. I actually forget who that kill was. Definitely wasn't Julius. That was more of an assist kill. Yeah, we aren't even like halfway into the characters at this point. I've already gone through most of my final thoughts. But yeah, I just hope that this is it's not that I haven't been enjoying the game towards the end. I did definitely suffer some burnout, though, I will say. I feel like in the future, I would like to maybe try and approach more similarly to what I did with Three Houses and Trails in the Sky, where I was recording 2 games at once. That actually did a good job of preventing burnout. It meant that I still had some variety in what I was doing. Whereas with this, I've been recording the 1 game for the past several months, though for some reason that was never really an issue for me with Persona 4. I still really enjoy this game overall. I still quite like it, and I still think that as far as Fire Emblem games go, if I am considering this a real Fire Emblem game, I do rank this up on the higher end of those games. I suppose while I'm going through this and maybe finding some other things I can criticize about this game, this is one thing that I definitely do agree on with my stance back in 2012. I do think the ending is incredibly cheesy, especially the final speech before everyone figuratively and literally sails off into the sunset. I mean, I like the idea of Root and Holmes and their love interest going on like a cruise together. I just think that's a nice way to end this. And I like how they keep things ambiguous as to whether Holmes ends up, like, marrying Cantry and ruling Salia, or if he ends up just going adventuring with her for the rest of his life, because it seems like he's more into that kind of thing. But yeah, I will say, especially with the fact that, like, all of the shamans get revived from the dead, and even Richard gets to come back, just due to a literal Deus Ex Machina, it is just, it is a bit weird, and it is very, very cheesy. And, like, I feel like not even the official Fire Emblem games get that cheesy with their ending and going all about all the power of love and all of that kind of stuff. It's just... It's kind of weird. Like, in a lot of ways, it's kind of surprising to see that out of Kaga, because Kaga... Oh, great, she got mean kills, exactly. Kaga's often been known as being, like, more of, like, a writer of darker, deconstructive Fire Emblem games. Like even Marth's games were honestly not all that conventional. Like, a big reveal of the history of Arcanea is the fact that the founder of the country was actually just a common thief who stole the legendary artifacts and just sold them to fund an army, and he wasn't nearly as noble as historians thought he was. So even, like, again, the more conventional Marth games are still a bit deconstructive, and yet you've got an ending in this game that is just so overly happy and cheesy and all about love and happiness and friendship and everyone living happily ever after. It's just kind of interesting to see from Kaga, but I mean, the next game that Kaga did, Bearwick Saga, that game was quite different. While this game was more traditional heroic fantasy, Bearwick Saga was more of a historical war chronicle, and it's very much, like, no real good or evil characters at all, and not even in the sense of three houses. It's more like, there is actually no good or bad at all in that game, as far as I know. And speaking of which, a lot of people might be wondering whether I plan on doing Bearwick Saga. I've never played that game for myself, and the thing is, I might like to play that game personally one day, but I am not making any promises of covering it on my channel, I'll just say, because, like, again, one, I haven't played it, I don't even know if I'll like it, but one day I might play it, and if I end up liking it, then I might consider it for the channel. But unlike TearRing Saga, it is very much not a Fire Emblem game. Kaga knew from the lawsuit that he could not attempt this again, so he made a strategy RPG that is still medieval fantasy, though much more low fantasy than this, but it plays absolutely nothing like Fire Emblem. And that's part of why I won't make any promises for the channel, because I prefer to cover more of the Fire Emblem games. But one day, I might end up covering it if I end up playing it for myself and liking it. Then there's Vestaria Saga, which actually is much more of a Fire Emblem game, but I've also heard very conflicting things about that game, and honestly, something that turns me off from playing that one is that a lot of its fanbase consists of people who hate modern Fire Emblem. So with that, we get a chance to save our data for Versus mode, and you might be wondering why I never overwrote the first two files here. This right here is my Versus data from my test playthrough, and I plan on pitting that against my Versus data from this playthrough when I show off multiplayer. And I'll be seeing you next time for multiplayer mode, but until then, this is Big Clinky signing off.